Flip, 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 Flip Weekly.
Hello and welcome to the Flip Weekly podcast. My name is Matt. I am your host, and this is a podcast all about thrifting, not flipping. Well, about flipping too. We go to garage sales, we go to thrift stores, we find things on Facebook Marketplace. Our entire deal is we buy low, sell high. We're trying to make a profit on items that we're buying for like $1 in thrift stores. Now, my energy levels, despite how I sound, are very high because I have just gotten back from the Capitol Theatre in Sydney to see The Lion King. Now, you might be thinking, Matt, this does not sound like something you would ever go and see. You're not going to be spending hundreds of dollars on tickets to see a musical of The Lion King. You are correct. I was gifted not one, not two, but 3 fucking tickets to this show. And I'm really glad I went. I wouldn't have bought these myself. Gifted the tickets, and you would think, okay, you can invite 2 other people. That's fine. People would love to go and see this. The costumes, the music. It's on a Wednesday. Okay, you're thinking, well, people get off work on a Wednesday. They can go see this shit. It was on at 1 p.m. I was surrounded by children. Nobody's taking a day off to come and see The Lion King with me. I walk in, first of all, a bit hesitant because it's 1 p.m. on a Wednesday and I'm surrounded by school children. Everyone is in a uniform except for me, this bloke with a disgusting long beard towering over all of these little kids. And I'm thinking, oh, I should not be here. And then they're all lining up at the bar. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess these kids are going to have a really fun time here at The Lion King. They're getting popcorn and Coke like it's a movie. I probably shouldn't be ordering drinks like I would if I was at any other event. A tray of 4 Canadian clubs or a tray of 4 of your lightest fucking beers that is the only thing you can sell at these events. So I decide to blend in. I'm thinking, well, maybe I can pass off as a school kid. Popcorn and Coke for Matt. Yeah, great. I get into my seat. I have a seat on either side of me because nobody else is here with me. I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable until the lights go down and the show starts. And it's an amazing show. You know, obviously this has nothing to do with thrifting, but I've just gone back from it. I'm thinking, well, I need to tell someone about this. The music, the performances from the orchestra, the singing, the costumes. The costumes were fantastic. You know, I have so much praise to give to this show and also to the theatre. Amazing, beautiful theatre. My only qualms with this show was that from afar it looked like Simba was played by a little Asian kid and then he transformed into a very buff black man. And the other thing was that there's some people in the show that have very easy jobs. You know, there's a couple of people that fly birds around the theater and it's basically on the end of a fishing pole, right? They attach these birds, they fly it around. It's an easy job. You have the young Simba, and how do they dress young Simba? They give him these lion-looking shorts and a tail, and that's his outfit, which is cool, that's fine. And then they give the other people on the stage that are representing the birds, they have these birds perched on their hands, and it looks pretty basic, right? And then it comes the fucking person that plays the giraffe. And I can just imagine the casting room. Okay, so the bird people, they have them on the end of a fishing line. They have them on their arms. So how do you want to portray the giraffe? Is it just like a head on the end of the broom? No. You're going to be standing on stilts. Okay, that sounds a bit difficult. With not just your feet, but your hands too. Your hands and your feet are on stilts. They deck this fucking giraffe out while everyone else has an easy job. You know, you hear about theatre plays and the most ridiculous thing you could be, or the easiest thing you could be, would be a tree. You know, you hear it in movies all the time when there's a character that needs to show that they're not an important piece of this play. And it's like, well, I play the tree, right? You just stand there. There are cunts in this that play grass. They just play grass. They're laying on the ground. They have grass attached to them. That's their fucking role. It's a great show. Really. If you're in Sydney at the moment, get out and see it, man. I'm sure they're touring around Australia and it's not that expensive once you get in there. $13 for a popcorn and Coke. Compare that to any other concert and you'd be paying like $15 to $20 for like a CC or a low strength beer. How do we bring this back to thrifting? Oh, I was thinking about thrifting the entire time. I wish that I could have been thrifting. You know, instead of seeing this multi-million-dollar production, I should be in fucking Savers, navigating around all the toys pulled off shelves by those unsupervised kids, right? Yeah, that's it. So we've had a really good week. We have plenty of pickups. We have plenty of sales to talk about. We found the most valuable thing in a op shop again. This has happened to us again. We've walked in and just found something that has sold. You know, it has sold for a lot of money. And I see content all the time on social media about thrifting, how it's dead, how you don't want to be doing it anymore, how you can't outsmart the fucking volunteers, you can't outsmart the thrift stores. It's just not worth it. Focus on other avenues. It's just not true. You know, it's not dead. It does require consistency, and you do need a lot of luck. But we are publishing content every single fucking week with amazing thrift store finds. Everything that I've been talking to you about lately has been stuff that is worth over $100. So if you ever see thrifting is dead and to focus on other avenues, it's just not. It really is just not. And you know, even when I was on my way back to my place today, you know, I got public transport and the bus was running a tiny bit late. There was a Vinnies across the road. I needed to get like a clip for social media. So I jumped inside of Vinnies. I went downstairs. This must have been the quickest Vinnies trip ever. I was in and out within like 3 minutes. And if my bus wasn't just about to leave, I would have bought like 2 or 3 fucking things. Not $100 plus things, but easily like $50 items that would go quickly. You know, there was like a fucking Bear in the Big Blue House plush for $1. And you know how crazy those go. I have one on eBay right now for $100. Or it might be a tiny bit less now after discounts and sales. But all it takes is a fucking pop into your local thrift store, a tiny bit of knowledge, which hopefully you can get from me or other resellers. You need to get the blessing from the thrift gods. And if you get all of those, you can make money in this industry. And if you don't, then you know what? Fucking Hakuna Matata, right? It means no worries. It means no worries. And it means no worries because you just move on to the next thrift store. And that's the circle of life. It doesn't sound very good, right? Like it's not a thing. Anyway, I think here's what I'm going to do for you in this week's podcast. Just like always, we're going to run through what we bought and then we're going to move on to what I sold. I'm going to talk to you about the most valuable thing that I found in a Vinnies again, and we're going to have a good time, right? So let's just get straight into it. So what did we buy? How much money did we spend this week? We spent probably under $100, but our listed value would be enormous. We would have seen a return on that easily by now. And the first item that I want to talk about is from Savers. Now, before smartphones, before tablets, before the kids were playing Minecraft and Fortnite, kids used to play outside. You know, we used to have really fucking dope toys. You know, there were no loot boxes or mystery gifts. What you saw on the box was what you got. And so when I was in Savers and I was in the board game section, I took a look at this box and I was immediately brought back to my childhood. I was excited. I was like, I want to give this a fucking go. And what it was a 2000s, like a very early 2000s Air Hogs accelerator. Now you might not remember this if you weren't like a dude growing up in the early 2000s, but what this is, it's essentially a toy plane. It's made of heavy foam, and on the box it looks like a remote controlled toy, but it's anything but that, right? Like it doesn't require batteries, it has no controller, it's powered through air pressure. Now you don't blow into this like a balloon. You connect it up to the hand pump that's within the box. You pump that thing away, you exhaust your little arms, and then you throw it like a paper airplane and this thing would fly, right? Back in the day, kids would do this. This is how they would spend their time, right? They're not inside. They would be playing with toys like this. And I can just imagine what happens to these toys now. You know, a parent would see this and buy it, bit of nostalgia for them. They'd give it to their dumb kid, and I can see them playing with it for maybe like 30 seconds. They'd pump this plane up, they'd throw it, it'll get stuck in a tree or go over a fence, you know, because houses are so fucking small now. They have no backyards. Where do you even fly something like this? And they'd be done with it. Or they would see that their fucking friend has like a drone, and then your kid is rocking a fucking foam plane. Who's going to be the cool kid? Who's going to be the kid that gets picked on? Some kids flying a fucking drone, and this kid is pumping away on a foam airplane that breaks after one go. I just hope that a parent is dumb enough to buy this from me. And I think they will, because what surprised me about this brand, about Air Hogs, is that it's still active in 2026. You know, and if people are finding these toys, they're buying them, because we don't have any active listings for this specific toy, but I can see one sold on eBay, but I can see a lot more on WorthPoint. So one sold eBay, and on WorthPoint, 148 results. People are buying this stuff. And from all the data I can pull, people are paying around $100 for this Air Hog accelerator. You know, you need to keep an eye out for this brand Air Hogs, especially when they do crossovers. You know, when they do crossovers with IPs like Star Wars and all those other Star brands like Star Trek, you can make good money. I'm looking at some sold listings here for a Star Wars Air Hogs crossover for the Millennium Falcon, which had sold for $455. Then if you're not into Star Wars but you're into Star Trek, there's an Air Hogs USS Enterprise, which is $369. That's the sold comps. Now, I don't know if a kid is going to want to play with this. You know, like if you buy a $455 Air Hogs Millennium Falcon for your kid, are you going to let them pump it up and then fly it? I mean, I wouldn't. It'll be like they're standing in front of a fucking wall. This is how dumb kids are. And they'll just throw it directly at the fucking wall. And it'll break and they'll look at you like, oh, this is dumb. It's like, you're the fucking dumb kid. You threw it directly at the wall. Of course it would break. So this Air Hogs brand is one to look out for. So I paid, what did I pay for this? I paid like $8.99. Everything inside the box was brand new, so I couldn't even test it out. It was still twist tied down. There was a bit of dust. I gave it a bit of a clean, but the box was in good condition. I don't think people are buying this as a collectible to display. They're buying it as like nostalgia to play with. Huge mistake. But everything was in there, including the instruction manual. So I've listed up for $100, and I'm sure we'll be able to get it, considering we have all of those 100+ solds on WorthPoint, as well as that sold listing on eBay, which is at, what was it? It was in $91.39 from the US, and that was also one that was essentially brand new. Mine obviously isn't sealed because I was able to open it up and check out all the contents inside, but it's like open box sealed contents. That's usually what I write in my listings when the box isn't sealed, and it's pretty hard to determine whether a box is sealed. You know, when you go into a thrift store, you can't really take a gamble on that, because it would be gambling. You need to really open it up and see, unless it has the sticker, not the sticker, the tape that Lego has, you know, when it has the black bars, so you know that it is actually sealed. Yeah, so $100 for these Air Hogs. But then we move over to a Lifeline, and I found this really cute plush bear, which has been listed up for a lot of money. It was only $5 in Lifeline. What it was a 90s AFL Western Bulldogs plush bear. Now, this is a team that plays in the AFL, Australian Football League. I saw it in the top shelf of Lifeline, and I was drawn to the patches on it, you know, the logo of the team. They looked really old. And on the tag, I could see that the AFL logo was also the one from the 90s. So I pulled him down, right? And I asked how long he had been in the store. They said it came in on Monday. I bought him on a Wednesday. And I legit think that nobody bought it because he was on like the highest fucking shelf in the store. And when I pulled him down, I could see that he had a battery pack in his back. Now, this is a gamble. You know, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. There's going to be a big difference between the pricing. But from the outside, this thing looked clean. This teddy bear didn't have any stains or marks on it. So I took the chance, because the comps were promising. I can see one on eBay that's a sold for $79 plus $11.15 postage. Now, there isn't any active listings for this Western Bulldogs version of the toy, so I thought we can get a tiny bit of a premium for him. So I'm hoping for $99.95, which I don't think is too crazy. I tested him out when I got him home, and he's working. You press his left hand and he sings the team song. Now, with the Western Bulldogs in the AFL not doing too badly, I don't think it's going to be too long before somebody pulls the trigger on him, because he's legitimately a cute little bear. You know, when I was checking out at Lifeline, I said to them, like, I hope it works, and everyone behind the counter, there was 3 there. I don't know why there was 3 people behind the counter. One to ring it up, one to like bag him, and then the other one is just there to chat or to make comments about what you're buying. Oh, that's a cute little bear. You're going to fucking put him in your bed and give him lots of hugs at night time? Anyway, he's a cute little bear. Now from there we go over to Savers. We're going back to Savers, sorry, and Savers can be very predictable. You know, if they get any sort of comic book, any sort of graphic novel, you can expect to see a $20 sticker, if not a bit more. But somehow we got lucky, and this is what thrifting's all about, just getting lucky. And it wasn't where graphic novels are usually placed, and I think that's why we got lucky. Usually they're in like the sci-fi section, even if the comic book isn't about sci-fi, they're all placed there. This one was placed in the reference and education section. One of my favorite sections to look for in the books. And what I found for only $3.49 was a copy of the graphic novel The Crow. Now, this was originally published in 1989 by a guy named James O'Barr, and the comic was so successful that it was eventually adapted into a film in 1994 and then another one in 2024. Now, the 2024 version, it bombed at the box office. The 1994 version, it did a bit better, except something bad happened on set where the main actor, the guy that was responsible for playing the protagonist, Brendan Lee, he died on set. He got shot. It was supposed to be a prop gun. The guy died. And then I guess 30 years pass and they decide to give the movie another go. I was going to say another shot, but they decided to give the movie another go. They used the guy from It, you know, the guy that plays Pennywise, one of the Scars guards. Didn't do very well. We found this graphic novel for $3.49, and I'm guessing it was priced so cheap because it already had a $5.99 sticker on it. So this is another moment where we were saved by the original donor leaving the price tags on. This has gotten us so many good finds in the past. If there's an original sticker on it, I think it must be thrift store policy to not price it higher. Or at least it's like policy, or maybe it's not policy, maybe it's just what the employees or volunteers do. They see an original $6 sticker on, they're like, okay, this doesn't need to be looked up, we're just going to price it half of that. That's what happened. So that was really good. We paid what did we pay? $3.50 for it. Cheaper available overseas. However, here in Australia, in our tiny little fucking island where we get nothing cool, the most recent sold listing is for over $100. Now, I'm not going to second guess that comp. We're going to aim to turn $3.49 into $100 because that last sold comp was for $116 plus $9 delivery, so it's over $120. This will be a very good sale, and I fucking love selling my books. It might be my favorite place to go in a thrift store, probably because of the sheer volume, the sheer quantity. Not many people are looking in the book section as hard as I'm looking, and it's one of those sections where you can find $100 plus items. There's just so much there. If you're just selling, for example, DVDs, there's volume there, there's quantity there, but it is nowhere near the level of books. And when the volume and the quantity goes down, you best believe that the thrift store employees are going to be looking at it much more carefully. You know, you go down to the electronics, even more expensive. But the sheer volume of books, that's where we make some money. Anyway, moving on. Speaking of a section that doesn't have sheer volume, I was in like the glassware, sort of like the homeware section. I hesitated on this, and it's probably cost me a couple of $100. So what I was able to find, and if you're a long-time listener of the podcast, you'll know that we've made plenty of money with liquor-related collectibles. The most valuable, I guess, was turning $5 into $500 with a mug, a very simple mug, a Beanley rum mug. It's just some distillery here in Australia. We paid $5, sold it for $500. So in Savers, I saw these very small 10 centimeter ceramic bowls, and they featured the Bundaberg logo on them, right next to another logo for the Byron Bay Chili Company, which I've never heard of. So I guess from my research online, these two brands collaborated on a range of sauces. And I mean, again, I guess these bowls were made as promotional items. I found in Savers 10 of these, and they all had $1.99 stickers on them. Now that I think about it, a company like Bundaberg, huge, massive, global, collaborating with Byron Bay Chili Company, a sauce manufacturer. Is there nobody else you can collaborate with than a Byron Bay sauce company? It just seems so small. It would literally be like if Flip Weekly collaborated with that Skarsgård guy that we talked about before. They're on different levels, right? So because of that Beanley rum that I'd sold in the past, I have a buddy now. I sound like Rick from Pawn Stars. I have a buddy now that is a Beanley rum collector and had just gotten out of the Bundaberg rum collecting sphere, right? He is like a contributor in that scene. You know, he knows a lot of people that collect this sort of stuff. So I had a feeling if I hit him up and said I had some of these bowls, I could get a quick sale. But at the same time, I wasn't, 100% confident, because I thought, my luck, I'm going to get stuck with fucking 10 of these things and nobody will want them, because at the end of the day, they're just a very small bowl. And I've just done a massive cull. So I don't want to be bringing in like so much more stock. So I figured if I buy 3 of them and I bundle them together, maybe we can get $100 sale on eBay, and a bit less if we go direct, because I see on eBay there's only one there. There's one exact comp for this, no sold listings, but the active listing has 4 people watching it, and it's for $30 plus $8.54 postage. So just one of these bowls is listed on eBay for about $38, which is, that's decent. If you bundle 3, there's no reason you can't get 100, providing people want this shit. Anyway, the heavy hitter of the week, the most valuable item in Vinnies, is next. And man, did we, luck out. That's all it is. It's just luck, a bit of knowledge, and being consistent. And here's the thing. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I've essentially mastered the art of spotting sporting jerseys on racks without moving any clothes. If you ever see a giant, uncomfortable looking man in any thrift store walking through the clothing racks without touching them, that's me. Please leave me alone. But when you're searching for, alternate colors, alternate stripes, you can really spot them from a mile away. And that includes when they're hiding in a corner in between racks and racks of all the other men's clothing, all the fucking Anko and Superdry stuff. I've mastered the art of being able to spot this shit. So it was priced up at $50. That's a lot of money for a men's clothing item in a thrift store. So this was a 1998 Parramatta Eels NRL jersey, and it is in incredible condition, given the fact it's almost as old as I am. We've got the sponsor logos in amazing shape. The embroidery and the patches on this thing, they're just shining like they're brand new. And from what I can see looking at it, not a single dirt stain, no sweat stain, nothing disgusting. If you're a braver man than I am, you would put this on straight away. The only thing I can fault from this holy grail jersey is the sizing tag, because it's frayed away, it's disintegrated, you can't tell what size it is anymore. Nevertheless, it's a bigger size. Looking at it, probably a 2XL. And I immediately decide this thing is coming home with me. I don't even comp it up in the store. And so I get back home and I'm really excited, delaying gratification. Not going to look this up until I complete all my other tasks for the day. I'm excited because I get to date this. I get to comp it. This thing is fucking gorgeous. So for any sort of sports jerseys, you're going to get more money if you can state the exact year it was made. And for me, I just Google NRL jersey year by year, and up comes a whole bunch of websites that are so incredibly useful. And from that, I can confirm this is a 1998 home jersey. So now I start looking on eBay. I can't find an exact listing. I can't find active listings, but I can see a sold listing, but it was from a 1998 away jersey. And it sold for crazy money just this month. This away jersey sold for just under $500. Now, why did it sell for that much? Did they win the competition in 1998? Were the Eels amazing in 1998? Were they amazing in 1998? No, they weren't. Was this thing signed? No. In fact, jersey collectors, they would prefer it if there's no signatures on the jersey. So what gives? First off, it's the obvious answer. It's because it's old. The older it is, the harder it is to come by in most cases. Now, second, it's the way that it's made. Now, think of the items that you buy now versus what you bought 20 years ago. Now, are the items you buy now made to last? Or are they made as cheap as fucking humanly possible? You know, jerseys from 20 years ago, they were made to be very durable. You know, they were quite heavy. They were designed to withstand the sport. But nowadays, it's all about keeping those costs low. And there's a lean towards performance. You know, it needs to be light. It needs to allow the player to be flexible, blah, blah, blah. But the third thing is it's really personal preference for each collector. And a lot of people, they just like the way these older jerseys look. For this particular year, it's very popular. So I decided to list this up for sale on eBay, $500, Facebook Marketplace for $400. And then you think, people say thrifting is dead. There's nothing dead about a jersey that can be listed up for $500 on eBay. I'm sorry, there's nothing. Now, just a quick thing before we jump into what I sold. I've been thinking about, software for the past few weeks. There's a lot of AI software out there that supposedly helps you with thrifting, which I don't think it really does. There's also, all of the spreadsheet type of software out there, the web apps. I'm not talking about that software. I'm thinking about, I was thinking like, what do I want? What could help me with my thrifting? And yes, you could do this in a spreadsheet and I could probably track this myself. But I was thinking like, I would really like some sort of web app or some sort of app in general where I could track which thrift stores that I go to are actually producing the goods. Say you're doing a route and there's 8 thrift stores on the route. You want to keep track of which one of those 8 you find items at. So you go to the first one, you walk out with one thing, you jot down in this little app the bought price, the listed price. You continue along your route. Whether you're successful or not, you jot it all down. And then over a period of time, you're going to do your route again, but you have the data to say, well, don't go to, the third one on this route because you never buy anything. For the past 6 months, every time you've gone there, you've walked out empty-handed. Like, that is the sort of software that I would like in my life. I think that would be helpful because I think like I do my route and I get excited sometimes like, oh, I'm going to this next one where I usually find something. But then I think once I leave with nothing, well, when was the last time I was actually at the fucking cash register of this thrift store? It might be just my fucking brain playing tricks on me that this one's always good, but I never fucking find anything. Like, that sort of data, I think, can really help us determine where to spend our time. Going to thrift stores takes time. You want to optimize it as much as possible, right? I mean, providing you're not in it because it's fun. I don't think people get into reselling because it's like a hoot, like it's really fun. Just the same reason why people aren't collecting all my bottles and cans because they find it fun. You do this for the fucking money, right? I just think that's a way that could really help all of us, right? So if I get enough, like, I don't know, hell yes, maybe I'll decide to build it and release it for free on Flip Weekly. I don't know. I think it would definitely help me. Yes, I could just do it in a spreadsheet, but that's not as fun, right? You need the fucking sound effects and little animations on the screen to keep people engaged, right? Even to keep me engaged. Anyway, that's just a random thought that I had about how to improve my own thrifting, Anyway, let's move on to what we sold this week. So first things off the block was a Steelbook DVD. Was it a DVD or Blu-ray? It was a DVD. It was called Mantis. It's one of those titles that has the M.A.N.T, etc. You know, how often does it happen that you find like a fucking Steelbook DVD in a thrift store? And I bought it for $5. Now, it was the complete series of that television show Mantis. Now, this television show only aired for one season. That was all the way back in '94. And I'm being completely serious when I tell you that the synopsis of this television show was that it followed a paraplegic scientist, and he built this, you know, super duper exoskeleton suit that allowed him to fight crime. Now, I googled this show, and from all of the screenshots and like images I could find, it's to be honest, it looks sort of ridiculous. You know, this guy is sitting in a wheelchair in an exoskeleton with very bad production values. It looks a bit silly, but I guess when you think about it, most superheroes look a bit silly, right? Anyway, don't ask me why. I don't remember. I originally had this priced up on eBay for $69.69. I have no idea why I did that, but after a 5% off sale, end up selling for $66.21. It's off to the UK, so the total order value for that one DVD was $114.55. Now, the next sale is actually going to make you want to check out your existing bundle listings on eBay. Let me explain why. Back in August last year, I picked up an entire box full of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figurines. They came with a whole bunch of accessories. I paid $50 for them on Facebook Marketplace. And at that time, the total listed value of everything was just over $800, but I made a mistake. I grouped together a whole bunch of these figurines and accessories, and I put them on eBay for $150 with a very vague title and description, and they sat there for the past 9 months and they received just 2 views. Now, at the same time, I put this bundle on Marketplace, and for the past 9 months, I've received multiple messages from this same dude that wanted to buy just one figure from this bundle. You know, he messaged me back 9 months ago saying, "Is this available? Will you sell just the Leo figure, you know, Leonardo by himself?" And I sent back saying, like, you know, I'm just trying to get rid of it all at the same time. And then he sent me a message of February this year asking if I was still only selling it as a whole. He was just after that one figure. And I was like, yeah, sorry. He was like, all good. And then May, this month, he messaged me again saying, still only selling as a whole. I wrote back saying, what was your offer for the figure? And he replied $30, right? But I had finally had enough. I decided to look this figure up. And here's what I found. There was no active listings for this figure plus the weapons. The figure loose with no accessories, it was selling for between $10 and $20. It's probably what I saw originally when I first looked him up. However, the figure with the belt, with a TMNT belt, was selling for $53, and the figure's swords selling by themselves for between $46 and $65. They're just these 2 little fucking plastic swords that go with the Leonardo figure. So I was thinking, like, this guy should be listed up for $100 plus. Like, what the fuck happened? I think, like, when processing the bulk deal, you know, all of these storage tub items, I just ran out of steam, right? Like, I was dealing with a lot of these little pieces and a lot of these figures. And when you combine the inspection, the identifying process, the listing and the photographing, I must have just given up. And that sounds true, right? Because we don't say lazy Matt for nothing. That's why the figures and the accessories and everything was bundled up for $150. I entered that listing, the bundle listing, and by now the $150 bundle was down to $85.45. So I entered that, listed up the figure just by itself, and it sold pretty much instantly for $120. So what's crazy, man, is like that buyer could have snagged everything $35 cheaper just 48 hours ago if they just found the bundle. what does that tell you, man? Like, the value lies in separating everything out. Some buyers, they don't bother looking into the bundles, and I don't blame them. They're happy to pay that premium if it's presented to them on a silver platter. So now that that bundle has ended, it's time for me to go through it and see if any of the other stuff is worth listing up by itself. I can't believe that this one figure sold for $120 when just 2 days earlier, that figure was in the bundle for $85. It's just, does that just make you want to go through all of your fucking bundles? Anyway, moving on. The next sale, it was a new one for me. This sale didn't come from Facebook Marketplace. It didn't come from eBay. So where the fuck did this sale come from? I'm not standing on the side of the street with this item. This sale came from a text message to a stranger that I've never met before, never talked before. Now, I didn't start just texting random phone numbers, right? Like, I reached out to my buddy who is the one that collects the Beanley rum. You know, this is the 3 ceramic bowls of Bundaberg rum, blah, blah, blah. I asked him if he knew any collectors that would like the bowls, right? Like, I didn't think much of it until he replied saying yes. He immediately contacted somebody, and that guy said, yes, I want them. And then we exchanged contact information. And from the very first text to this bloke to when I received payment for these bowls was a grand total of 3 minutes. Now, I don't know what my guy said to him, but he was raring. He was ready to go. I have these text messages here. 7:34 p.m. was when I first said, hey, Dave, my name is Matt. I believe Dean got in touch with you about the Bundy bowls. I'm asking $50 plus $15 postage. Is this something you'd be keen on? And I attached a few photos, and literally at 7:35 he said, yeah, keen as how many? 3 bowls. And then a minute later, $65 posted. Have you got pay ID? A minute later, payment is in my account. Like, these sold so quickly that I didn't even have a chance to write up like an eBay or Facebook listing. Like, I didn't even need to take proper photos. If you go to flipweekly.com, you'll see the photos are just sitting at my desk, no lighting. They're just chilling there. And that's it. Now, you'll remember that there was 10 of these bowls and I just bought 3 of them. So when these sold so quickly, you know, the next thing that I did, or the next thing that I was wanting to do, I was like, well, I need to go back to Savers and buy the remaining bowls, right? There would be at least 6 left, and that's what, 2 lots of 3, and I can put them up for $100 a bundle, so that's at least $200. So I go back to Savers the next day, and they're all gone. Not a single bowl left. Somebody else has snagged them up. I don't know if they're a collector, if they're a reseller. I hope if they resell them, they list them up for a decent amount of money. But that was a bit of a bugger. But, you know, we're not to be sad because, man, it took less than 12 hours for somebody to commit to the best find of the week. And that is the Parramatta Eels jersey, 1998, that I found in Vinnies for $50. I had the jersey on Marketplace for $400 fucking dollars. And at the 12-hour mark, a collector wanted it. He sent me a message and he initially offered $350 for it. And before I could respond, he followed it up with something that you probably shouldn't say in a negotiation. He said, I'm really keen on this, which to me read like, I'll pay full price. So, you know, I think I'm going to hit him with the old, I can't lower it just yet. And what do you know? He agreed to pay the full amount. He sends me back, okay, done. Put it as pending, lock it in. And he says to me, this is my grail. Ha ha. It was just done like that. He picked it up later that night, which means that we have turned $50 into $400 within 24 hours. And that's just from a simple trip to our local Vinnies. Thrifting is dead. Don't bother with thrift stores. Okay, fine. I'll fucking go take all this shit. $15 to $400. Get out there to your local Vinnies. Be consistent. Find this shit. And finally, I'm starting to lose my title of the biggest Polly Pocket owner in Australia, at least the biggest dude Polly Pocket owner in Australia, because this next sale was for the wonderful wedding party Polly Pocket. which came with 3 of the original dolls, plus a wedding dress. Doesn't make any noise, but it's easily double the size of the smaller compacts. And it has a lot of hidden compartments. Now those fucking hidden compartments, I opened this up after I took it out of the storage container, and I thought I had lost some of the figures. You know, I've showed these to my mum, to my girl, and I'm thinking like, oh my god, they've fucking lost it when they've been playing with these fucking things. No, they were just hiding away in some of those compartments. So what I did, I purposely put these little figures in the most obvious spot for the buyer. And I did that because it was like a just in case that they possess the IQ of a typical fucking eBay buyer and they leave me feedback saying a figure was missing or they try and get a refund. So that was a sale of $100 and the bought price was within a huge bundle. We're making so much money with Polly Pockets. I mean, we've made so much money with these fucking things. We're rolling in it. And I'm glad to see another one out the door. Now that's all I've got for you this week. I'm off. I need to take a shower. I need to sing Hakuna Matata because it's been stuck in my head for the past fucking hour. Then after that, I might binge this fucking UK television show. What is it? Thrift to Shift or Shift to Thrift? What's that fucking thing called? It was sent to me yesterday. I have to binge this show. It's all about reselling in the UK. Go into a store, you have 5 minutes to find something to resell. It looks horrible, but I need to fucking binge this show. So I'm off. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you again next week.
Flip, 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 flip.
Flip Weekly.